once upon a time, a long time ago, or it could have been just yesterday, there was a grandfather and a grandmother, and they lived on a small farm. Beside their home, they had a garden that was just big enough to provide food for both of them to eat. In the springtime, the grandfather was very busy preparing the soil. He dug and dug to make the soil ready for all the seeds that he would plant. And he would water the garden all summer long and pull the weeds and tend all his vegetables with care. Grandfather plants the vegetable seeds, hi-diddle-dee. He puts them in the earth so deep, hi-diddle-dee. Grow, my garden, good and sweet, grow, garden, grow. And the vegetables did. They grew all summer long. And some of them grew even bigger than expected. And one was a giant turnip. The grandparents were amazed that such a large vegetable was in their garden. And finally, when autumn came, the grandfather decided that today would be the day that he would harvest that giant turnip. Grandfather went to pull it out, hi-diddle-dee. But the turnip was so big and stout, hi-diddle-dee. He reached down and he grabbed that turnip by the stalk and he pulled and pulled and pulled. Ha-rook, ha-rook, ha-rook-de-rook. But the turnip would not budge. So he tried a second time. Ha-rook, ha-rook, ha-rook-de-rook. But the turnip would not budge. So grandfather called out to grandmother. Grandmother, come quickly to me, you can help me pull. The turnip is stuck in the ground, it will not budge. So the grandmother came out to the garden and she took hold of the grandfather's waist. And the grandfather took hold of the turnip. And they began to pull. Ha-rook, ha-rook, ha-rook-de-rook. But the turnip would not budge. The grandmother saw the grandchild, who happened to live next door. And she said, Grandchild, come quick to us, you can help us pull. The turnip is stuck in the ground, it will not budge. So the grandchild came, and she held on to the grandmother's waist, and the grandmother held on to the grandfather's waist, and the grandfather held on to that turnip, and they began to pull. Ha-rook, ha-rook, ha-rook-de-rook, but the turnip would not budge. The grandchild looked around and saw that the family dog was walking through the yard. And she said, Oh, doggy dear, please come to us. You can help us pull. The turnip is stuck in the ground. It will not budge. So the dog held on to the child's shirt with its mouth. The child held on to the grandmother's waist. The grandmother held on to the grandfather's waist. And the grandfather, he grabbed onto that turnip and he began to pull. Ha-rook, ha-rook, ha-rook-de-rook. But the turnip would not budge. The family dog saw that the neighbor's kitty cat was sunshining in the front yard. And the dog said, Sleepy kitty, come to us, you can help us pull. The turnip is stuck in the ground, it will not budge. So the kitty cat held on to the doggy's tail, and the doggy held on to the grandchild's shirt, and the grandchild held on to the grandmother's waist, and the grandmother held on to the grandfather's waist, and the grandfather grabbed a hold of that turnip, and they began to pull. Ha-rook, ha-rook, ha-rook-de-rook. But the turnip would not budge. The old ones were growing very tired, and they thought, how will we ever be able to harvest this very large turnip? And that's when they noticed a tiny little field mouse scurrying nearby. And the grandfather said in a quiet voice, "Oh, little mouse, could you help us harvest this turnip? It's stuck fast in the ground and it will not budge." The little mouse squeaked, "I am so tiny. How can I possibly help you to harvest this enormous turnip?" "Many hands make light work," said the grandfather. The mouse came running, 1, 2, 3, "I can help you pull. Pulling as hard can be, I can help you pull." So the tiny field mouse held on to the cat's tail, and the cat held on to the dog's tail, and the dog held on to the grandchild's shirt, and the grandchild held on to the grandmother's waist, and the grandmother held on to the grandfather's waist, and the grandfather, he held on to that turnip, and they began to pull. Ha-rook, ha-rook, ha-rook-de-rook, ha-rook, ha-rook, ha-rook-de-rook, and out popped that giant turnip. Indeed, it was the largest turnip that anyone had ever seen. "Oh," said the grandmother, "this will make a fine harvest meal for us." So the old ones quickly went inside and gathered the largest pot that they had. And they brought it outside so that they could put it on the fire. And then together they worked to get that enormous turnip and put it into the pot so that it would begin to cook. And while it was cooking, the old ones set up a table. And everyone who had helped with the harvest was invited to enjoy the meal. And the old grandmother, she gathered a big bowl when the turnip was all ready. That turnip soup was going to be so delicious. And she ladled some into the big bowl and put it there for all to enjoy. And the little mouse, well, she had the seat of honor at the table, and she was allowed to have the first nibble of that delicious turnip soup. And from that point on, every year at harvest time, the tiny field mouse is always given the gift of the very first harvested turnip as thanks for her willingness to help. And if things have not changed, they are still the same today. Snip, snap, snout. This tale has been told out.